Education Delivery, a framework according to Gurbani by Dr. Gurinder Pal Singh ji. Gurinder Pal ji is chairman of Religious and Education Committee of the San Jose Sikh Gurdwara. He is among the founding directors of Guru Nanak Khalsa School, San Jose, as well as Chardi Kala Foundation. He is as well the regional coordinator for Hemkund Foundation Kirtan Darbar for the Western region. He holds a PhD from a prestigious institute in India, the TIFR, and has worked as a scientist in Germany and the IBM Research Center in San Jose. And I have the honor of asking Gurinder Pal ji to make a presentation on education delivery. Thank you.
Thank you. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thanks for staying so long. I know it's been a long day, and I really admire you. And so, my talk is more on nuts and bolts. You've heard a lot about mysticism, you've heard a lot about the philosophy, and I've been wondering how did the gurus do it? And that's what I'm going to share with you, the education delivery, a framework according to Gurbani. What Gurbani teaches us about education, and we'll look at that. First, why talk about education and Gurbani? There are some stereotypes about Sikhs. People say Sikhs are good farmers, Sikhs make good soldiers, Sikhs are taxi drivers, truck drivers, transport operators, and of course Sikhs know how to enjoy life. But one rarely connects Sikhi and education or Sikhs and education. And some of our education institutions don't do very well also, particularly in India, that we have seen. But this is very surprising, As Sikh, we are students and we are gurus who are teachers. So we are intimately connected with education all our life long. We are lifelong learners. So, and if we reflect, the education that Guru Nanak started, that brought about a big revolution in religious, social, and political way, and changed everything. So he was very effective. So it's a good time that we have a look how he did it and how he taught us. So we will see the education methods that our gurus adopted, and these are enshrined in Gurbani. And we'll see that these are among the most advanced ones. Of course, gurus were sent by God. Nobody matches that, but I'm just talking at a more basic level. Gurbani makes very explicit references to education. We are all familiar with lines like Vidya Vichari, Tamparopkari. Contemplate and reflect upon knowledge, and you will be a benefactor to others. Gur Prasadi, Vidya Vichare, Pad Pad Pave Man. By Guru's grace, contemplate spiritual knowledge, read it, study it, and you shall be honored. The word Vidya has the same origin as Vedas. The original word is Ved, and they both mean knowledge. Now, for us, the Gurbani and lives of Gurus are source of spiritual knowledge and enlightenment. And we want to examine them if the methods employed in Gurbani to impart spiritual knowledge are applicable to other fields, like the secular education. You can broadly divide the education into three aspects. One of them is knowledge delivery, other is knowledge content, what do you learn? And the third one is measuring the stages of accomplishment. And in this talk, I will just talk about the first one, the knowledge delivery, and how Gurbani does it, or how Gurus did it. Now, there are several aspects of knowledge delivery. One is what language you use, and mother tongue is considered to be the most effective one. The role of poetry and rhymes, singing and music, listening, repetition, graphical presentation, quantification, use of letters, role of teachers and mentor, role of class, that means Sangat, learning by questioning, role of practice, and of course, education is for everyone. We'll go over these points one by one. Now, gurus could have at that time adopted a language like Sanskrit or Persian, which was the language for scholars. But gurus didn't do that. They wrote Gurbani in the language of people. They talked to people in their own language. So mother tongue is very, very important. And particularly it is now established by several scientific studies that for early education, should be given in child's mother tongue. And that's the most effective way to teach a child. And gurus, of course, knew that. Use of poetry and rhymes. Gurbani is a beautiful poetry, and poetry is always pleasing to ears. This makes education fun and colorful. We all know the nursery rhymes. They develop our vocabulary, imagination. Also, the poetry makes things easy to remember. The fact that, we all of us who come from India, we remember our multiplication tables very well. We used to sing all the multiplication tables for hours and hours in our schools. And if you ask me what is 7 by 9, I would say 3, not 63, because that's what I remember from my song. And generally we use poetry for emotional information, the so-called the right brain type. But using on factual and reasoning, left brain is lagging. So that's something which we need to improve upon. Generally, poetry is kind of treated as a natural gift. I have rarely seen poetry writing classes. You can find English writing classes, and you can find other classes, but writing poetry is considered to be something like a natural gift. I don't know if computers can be programmed to convert text into poetry. I think that would be a good app if you do that. It could help a lot. And if we realize Sikhs and Punjabis are particularly good at writing poetry, and we should probably redirect some of that talent into education. If we could take our normal subjects, for example, for children, and make it into songs that children can sing, they will be naturally imbibing that information in a very, very smooth way. Singing and music. Now, Gurbani is organized in ragas. Kirtan or singing Gurbani is one of the principal modes of worship. Now, modern research supports that music and mindful singing exercises improve all aspects of brain. There's a chart here. Maybe it's not sure if it's easy to read, but there is a area of brain which connects our left and right hemispheres, which gets excited when you sing. Then there is a motor cortex, the movement when you play instruments or maybe dance by tapping or do something that gets excited, gets exercised. Prefrontal cortex, which creation of expectation. When you have music, you hear one tone, then you're expecting the next, and the next, and the next. And that expectation builds up your frontal cortex. There's a emotional reaction area that also registers the music very well. Then there's the sensory cortex here. It sort of takes feedback from playing music, and that exercises another part of brain. And then there are auditory cortex. Of course, when you sing, you hear your own voice also, and you excite that part of brain also. And then you have hippocampus, memory for music, musical experiences and contents. And then the visual cortex, which is reading music, looking at a performer or at one's own movements. And cerebrum, movement such as foot tapping, dancing, and playing an instrument. So many areas of the brain, they get excited during singing. So that's a very, very powerful way to build your brain and its capabilities. And gurus give us a gift of kirtan to do that. And I think we need to exploit it more in our education too. Again, if you go to Punjab, you see there are so many singers. This has done, so many Punjabi tapes are available. Punjabi music is kind of dominating the Indian scene right now, in spite of a much smaller number of Punjabis. And they have a natural strength, and I think somebody should redirect it to education, to in a more positive way. They shouldn't just be singing Heer Ranja and love song. They should be doing something more meaningful. Now, listening and imbibing or practicing. Hearing is a physical phenomenon. Listening is what I call mindful hearing. Now, Gurbani lays great emphasis on listening and practicing. Knowledge gets transferred only when we listen, not just hear. So, listening improves mental focus, practicing builds up actual skills, and they're both very, very key to learning. And gurus have emphasized that amply in Gurbani. Repetition. Now, in Sri Guru Granth Sahib, each message is repeated many times. Sometimes the same tuk is repeated many times. And again, repetition helps in memorization, deepens your understanding. Every time you read a line, you reflect again and again on it, and that deepens your understanding and helps in imbibing the underlying message. Aristotle said, it is frequent repetition that produces natural tendency. People say, chaliya kar lo, 40 din ko kam karde raho. That repetition also helps, okay, because it makes a habit. If you want to do dieting, maybe do it for 40 days at least before it becomes a habit. So again, repetition in knowledge learning is very, very important. And this is known fact here in school, that the teacher first sometimes comes and reads to the students, then he says, read with me, then he says, ask one of the students to read, then the second student reads, and through repetition they learn very well. But gurus have that already in there. And there's a lot of scientific research also which shows that it helps to develop the associative memory. You associated one fact with the other through repetition. Graphical presentation. Now, the modern graphical tools that we know these days, they were not available at time of gurus. But Guru Nanak Ji and our gurus were brilliant. They never knew any limitations in vocabulary or any tool. And they use their thoughts, they describe words to describe their thoughts very, very graphically. And there are several examples in Guru Granth Sahib. You can, in Aarti, when Guruji says, Gagan mein thal rav chand deepak, vane tarik mandal janak moti, toop malyan lo, pavan chabro kare, sagal ban rae, fulant jyoti. He puts the whole picture in front of you. Other way, somebody trying to describe the nature's Aarti would take so many words, but he does it in 2 lines so beautifully. Or when he describes the house of God, when he says, Sodar keha, sokar keha, jitbhe sarv samale, again, very, very graphical description, and he goes on describing all the musical instrument players and all the powerful people there and what all is happening in Guru's house in a very, very graphical way. So Gurus knew the kind of power of graphics, and they brought it out very carefully in the words because the other tools were not available. So quantification. Now, Guru Sahibaan were very aware of assigning even quantitative qualities to their subject of worship. Of course, for Vaheguru, it was always zero, infinite, priceless, or indescribable. Like Sargun, Nirgun, Nirankar, Sun Samadhi Aap, or Tumri Gat Mit, Tumhi Jani. Mit means meter, the measurement. Amul Gun, Amul Vapar. So again, quantification is an important part of education, and Gurbani doesn't ignore it. Use of letters. Guru Sahib have emphasized the importance of letters, that it's only through letters that we can do some wonderful things like Akhri Naam, Akhri Sala, Akhri Gyan, Geet Gun Ga, Akhri likhan bolan ban, akhra se sanjog bakhan. Before letters, the cavemen used graphics to convey information, and humanity later evolved to use of letters. So the letters form the basic elements of reading and writing. And imagine Guru Sahib's time, we're talking of 15th century, and they're talking to masses, not to elite, not to Brahmins. They're talking to masses, and they're urging them to learn letters. And there were no printing presses either, so they were far ahead in terms of using the tools of education. But Guruji was also well aware of the limitation of letters. The same, he says, Jis sir likhe, tis sir nae. So, of course, God cannot be described with letters. So his object of worship was much bigger, but our education levels are lower. Need of a teacher or mentor. Gurbani emphasizes the importance of a teacher for spiritual education when they say, Guru Paudi, Bedi Guru, Gur Tulha Har Now. Guru is the ladder, Guru is the boat, Guru is the raft to take me to Lord's name. Or it says, Kalar Bijas Durmat Aise Nigure ki Nisani, Satgur Bajo Kor Andara, Do Mueben Pani. Without proper knowledge and guidance, most well-intentioned efforts can be worthless. The example is about the farmer sowing into a land which is dry with some kind of a layer of dry land on top of soil on top. So that's the kind of person who doesn't have guidance how to do the sowing and how to farm his fields, and then he doesn't get any results. And similarly, if we don't have a guru to guide us in our spiritual education, so we will, even though our efforts are well intended, we won't reach anywhere. And it's very important that we select our teacher with care. It's like Guru Jina ka andala chele nahi thao. So having proper teacher is very important for secular education also. Now, importance of classroom sangat. Gurbani lays great emphasis on company of those who are trying to gain the same enlightenment. Vadpagi mil sangati sacha savat visa. Gursikhs pray for the company of other Gursikhs, just as good student seeks admission to good universities. Tinki sanga de prab main jachak ki ardas. Picking up improper company or pursuit of knowledge can be disastrous. We have Bagla, Kaag Neech ki sangat, Jaye Karang Bik Mukhlaiya. So we also know that there are universities which may not be very suitable for our children. There are party town universities or colleges. So that can be hurtful, and not having proper teachers there or environment or classroom. So again, if you have the proper class, proper company, participation in class will increase your commitment, enhance the focus, and allows you to learn also from the other perspectives. So it's very, very important that classroom and sangat, just like sangat is important for spirituality, we need learning in a classroom for our secular education also. And learning by questioning. Now, Guru Nanak Sahib was, in my view, the greatest teacher ever born. And he made people learn great lessons by making them ask questions or examine their own actions. We all familiar with what happened in Hardwar, the Sakhi that we learn from our childhood. We hear the Sakhis. Or incident at Makkah, wealth of Duni Chand, story about Janeu. What Guru Sahib is telling us as a technique is that critically examining the knowledge is an important part of learning. Right now in US, all the states practically are implementing a new system of education called Common Core. And the basis of Common Core is that students are encouraged to critically examine whatever they read and also examine the processes to get results. in both math and science. And if you think Guru Sahib was doing exactly that through all these questions that he was raising in the society at a bigger social level. So he was far ahead of everyone else. Learning by practice. There are many stories we hear about Bhai Lehna Ji when he came to Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Guru Nanak Dev Ji made him do many things, which sometimes are not explained very well in Sakhis. It's just explained more as him as being a very obedient person. But I think Guru Nanak Dev Ji was teaching him some lessons. He was a person of high caste. He used to be a Bhagat of Vaishno Devi before he met Guruji. So besides giving him spiritual knowledge, Guruji was teaching him the dignity of labor also. He made him work in the fields, and there's a story that he made him carry a whole load of wet grass on his head, even though he was wearing very nice clothes. And when he came, then Guru Nanak Dev Ji's wife complained that why did you make him do that? But Guruji had some meaning in his mind. And similarly, retrieving utensils from dirty water, and there are many other stories. And I think Guruji was teaching him some for the future generation, for the future of the Sikhism, some of the lessons. And we see that how Bhai Lehna Ji, when he became Guru Angad, how he implemented them. Now, after Bhai Lehna was transformed to Guru Angad Sahib, he started teaching young people the Gurmukhi script, made them do physical exercises, kushtiyan karwande san, and seva and langar. Now, again, he chose Gurmukhi script and Punjabi language and not Sanskrit or any other scholarly language because education is for everyone, not only for Brahmins or other high caste people. He prescribed physical fitness for everyone, not only for the warrior class, as was the kind of tradition at that time. He prescribed langar seva for everyone, as physical effort is for everyone, not only for lower caste people. So there are great lessons here. You know, we even know in US we have many stereotypes. We sometimes say, I'll say blacks or Hispanics that don't learn math, or girls don't learn math. We still live with stereotypes even in this generation. And Guru Sahib was trying to remove all those stereotypes at that time. It's not for any one class. Any type of education is open for everyone. And that's the lesson I think we need to learn from Guru Sahib's history, that all the Sakhis that we have beautifully. Given proper resources, given proper training, everyone can learn everything. Or people think that, oh, there was a time when I was in India, I'm a big fan of cricket, oh, Indians can't produce a fast bowler. But they did once they put their mind to it. And similarly, there are many, many examples. Once people put their mind to it, they can do it. I mean, nobody could talk that the small Chinese people could win so many gold medals, but they put their mind to it and they do it. They win handsomely in all the matches now. So, learning, being physically fit, doing seva, or not having any bias toward any work is the greatest quality that Guruji has taught us. And these qualities are ingrained in Sikhs. And that's why Sikhs are so successful anywhere they go in the world, because they can work hard, they can do anything and come up. In summary, I would say, if we look at the Gurbani and lives of Sikh Gurus, they provide us a very, very comprehensive and well-tested framework for designing a modern education system. And I'm happy to conclude, Sikhi and education are intimately connected. We only need to work a little more on it to realize our full potential. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you, Gurinder Pal Ji, for an excellent talk on education. And there are a couple of actually there is one question and one comment. So this question is, although Sikh means learner and seeker, as you mentioned, and that is the root core of Sikhism, how can the transformation happen where it is well understood? Why Sikhs are first thought of warriors and soldiers and then as seeker instead of other way around?
I think something it has got to do with also that we never had our own rule for a long time. We have been used by others. British wanted to use us as soldiers, and they found us probably among the hardest fighting people among the Indians. So they used it and they have propagated that image for us. Later on, Sikh regiments have done very well in the Indian army also, and that image gets further and further strengthened. They use South Indians mostly for, the Britishers use South Indians mostly for the academic jobs, or they use them for more clerical jobs, and they got the image of being the educated ones. So it's a kind of the history that people who controlled India, I think, that have nurtured those images. And I think Sikhs stood up to, or the Punjabis in general, stood up to the great challenge. When India became independent, India was hungry. There was not enough food. And Sikhs, through their hard work, Sikh farmers led the Green Revolution and made India self-sufficient in food. But it's not that there was no learning involved. There was a huge amount of learning involved through Punjab University, Agriculture University and others, and they learned it. Yeah.
I want to emphasize what you said, the last thing during the partition. And also, this also comments to another previous question to this talk. They said, how come we are not educated academically? Because in partition, South was not affected at all. Our Punjab was affected most, and most of our parents and grandparents were busy in just roti and makan banate. So they had to save their children. That's where we are behind. We were, after Guru Gobind Singh Ji, 100 years were just to fight the justice, common way or fighting if it was not working. So that's why we got behind, and now we are getting opportunity in all parts of the world, in all parts of the, all fields of the education. I think we are rising, and this is our time to go up and educate people like you are doing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And there is a comment, medical comment, it says, that singing rhymes and or listening to songs increases a chemical called dopamine in the brain, which makes one feels better or high. So kirtan is very important. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I think singing is something which we should exploit more. We are not doing enough of it. I think in US schools, they still have music classes in places where they can afford it and try to do that. But I haven't seen a deliberate use of music for conveying knowledge. And I think that's an area that needs to be researched upon and tested whether that can be more effective than just the language. I gave this talk some time back, and then there were some comments that there are some schools here in Oakland, they're trying to use the rap music, for example, to convey the education. And this might be more effective for some people. And similarly, we should be open-minded about this and use music and experiment on it, whether it can be a more powerful tool for education delivery.
That's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
Let's have a jakara for our session here also. Bole so nihal. Thank you.
Sat Shri Akal.
I think you know my name or Mohanji's name a lot, but there are hardworking people like Gurmukh ji here who was trying to provide us the sound, and so many people from our team who have been working in the background for refreshments and making all these arrangements. So let's have a jakara for them. Bole so nihal. And we have Kiran Brar and Ekam Brar who were keeping time, and they did a wonderful job. We were planning to finish at 5:20, and we did it. So,
Wow, great job.
so Jakara for them. Sat Sri Akal. Thank you.